welcome. Thank you so much for coming today, making time out of your schedule to talk to us. Before we start with our questions, we just have a quick icebreaker that we wanted to ask you to start off the pizza and politics. So, how do you feel about pineapple pizza?
Oh, I like it.
Same. Yeah, it's a good mixture of sweet and salty. So,
Yes, exactly.
To start off, what has your career in public service been like?
I started out volunteering on different election campaigns and nonprofit boards. Then I was appointed to the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission, where I served for 6 years, and then came to the assembly. And basically, each of those roles were um, progressively increasing my ability to help a larger number of people. And really my biggest thing is just really having the opportunity to help improve the quality of life of folks in the community.
That makes sense. What would you say is the most rewarding part of your job, and vice versa? What is the most challenging aspect of your job?
Well, the most rewarding part is actually when you're able to help people. That's really why most people run for elected office, is because they want to be able to, they see what's, the problems, and they want to be able to participate in creating the solutions. The challenging parts are always, trying to overcome those obstacles that impede progress. People are really dug in their positions, and sometimes it's not motivated by who can we help. It's more like who gets credit, or what party is leading in the movement of a particular bill.
What is your day-to-day schedule like? What do you do on the Committee on Constitution and Ethics? And how do your positions on the various committees interact with each other?
So my day to day usually start out with touching base with my assistant and just trying to figure out where am I supposed to be and what am I supposed to be doing today. A lot of making sure that communicating with my constituents, whether it's through returning calls, emails, replying to letters of concerns, issuing out press releases that explain a particular bill that I support or oppose, or explaining a vote that I took on the assembly floor, attending committees and session. What I try to do is track bills that are either bills that I really want to make sure become law, or that I want to prevent from becoming law. And so whatever committee they end up in, that's where I'm going to be voicing my opinion. But the way they interconnect is really more of, what bills are important to a particular legislator.
Awesome, that makes sense. I'm going to pass it off to Sam now.
The first question I had was, how are you working to make the political process more accessible to people it has historically not been accessible to?
Previously, as a member of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, I was the chair for the Latino caucus. And what we would do is have sort of workshops to explain folks the different levels of government. Like there's the city level, then there's a county level, then state and federal, and just explain to them what the different roles of each elected official was, whether it's a school board member, a county supervisor, an alder person, just explaining what that person does and how that person's decisions affects your life directly. So people would know, like, oh, I should vote for in this election because this is gonna make decisions about which schools get funded, which schools get, these programming, where the money in our city is going to go to, and who's deciding that. Who do I need to call to say, I don't want you to vote for that, or I want you to, support it. And so when people understand better how those different roles affect them, they start to be more invested in participating in the electoral process. The people who trust you are going to come to you with all sorts of other questions that are in other areas that are not your area of expertise. And so you always want to make sure that you are aware of your area's resources. And if you don't have the answer to the question, you know who would have the answer to those questions. So
I think the workshop idea sounds really helpful. I think a lot of people tend not to understand, like when elections come up, they don't understand the small things, and then they don't put in the effort to learn about that. Oh, the next question I had was, do you have any advice for young people who are trying to get more involved in our government?
Well, I definitely would suggest volunteering, for elections, or even, interning for elected officials, or, joining a party or organization that works on a specific issue that is important to you, that you're passionate about, because, you learn a lot in those positions, as far as how, um, if you have a particular idea, how you can make that idea become a policy. Join a group. If there's a particular issue that matters to you, trust me, there is multiple organizations that are working on that particular issue. And you can either get a paid, unpaid position, whatever it is that you want. And, you will learn how an idea progresses into actual policy.
Okay, thank you. The last question that I had was, what do you think are the most important things to know about the way that the Wisconsin government functions?
The most important thing that you have to figure out is that things aren't always what they appear to be. Because there's a lot of bills out there that will say this is the bestest bill ever and it fixes this problem. But if you read the actual language of the bill, it does the opposite. So you have to really pay attention to the details. And so, these days people have to do a little bit more homework and investigating to really understand what's going on in politics. It's really up to the public to ensure that our government is working the way that we want it to.
I definitely agree. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. I am going to pass it on to Nama to finish up.
Yeah, one question I had was how did COVID-19 impact your day-to-day lifestyle and policies that you had to pass?
Assembly people, our terms are only 2 years, and so the second year tends to be where half of it you're still working in Madison and on legislation, and then the other half of that second year you're campaigning. Well, in 2020 we had the pandemic that was, March, everything was shut down. And for me, that whole campaign process was completely had to change, because going door to door to people's houses isn't really a good idea when there's a full-on pandemic. And so it took me a long time to decide, how I was going to deal with that, because at first I tried to reach out to folks through the mail because it was the safest route. But it's also the most expensive route. And a lot of times you don't really know how impactful that's been, because a lot of people get those things and they throw them away right away. And so you have no way to gauge, how that person is receiving that information, if they're even looking at it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I know COVID-19 impacted a lot of families and elected officials in their business that they do for their constituents. So, okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.